There's a specific kind of silence that only exists during a school lockdown. It's heavier than normal silence. It presses against your ears. It makes every breath sound loud enough to betray you. Most students think lockdown drills are routine. Procedures. Protocol. Practice. But sometimes, the announcement isn't practice. Sometimes it's a warning. And sometimes, it comes too late. These are 3 lockdown stories that were never supposed to leave the building. The announcement started like any other. The speaker crackled. Static. Then the calm recorded voice, lockdown. Locks. Lights. Out of sight. On repeat. Our teacher froze mid-sentence, marker still touching the board. The room went still except for chairs scraping as everyone rushed to the wall like we'd practiced a dozen times. Someone whispered, "Is this real?" Nobody answered. Because outside, we heard a helicopter. At first faint. Then louder. Then directly above us. The sound circled the building, blades chopping the air like something searching. My stomach tightened. No drill had ever involved helicopters. Then, bang. A door slammed open somewhere down the hall. A man shouted. Gunfire erupted. Real gunfire. Not movie gunfire. Not TV gunfire. Real gunfire sounds wrong. Too loud. Too sharp. Too fast. Half the class covered their ears. One girl started crying silently, shoulders shaking. Then came a sound I still hear sometimes when I try to sleep. A scream that didn't sound human. The gunfire stopped. Something slammed against lockers outside hard enough to rattle our walls. Then silence. Footsteps approached our door. Heavy. Fast. They stopped right outside. The handle didn't turn. Instead, the door exploded inward. A SWAT officer flew into the room like he'd been thrown. He hit the teacher's desk with a crack that told us his spine was broken before his body even stopped moving. He was missing an arm. No one screamed. Shock locked us silent. The hallway beyond the broken doorway looked empty. Our teacher crawled toward it. I wanted to tell her not to. My throat wouldn't work. She peeked out. Her hand flew to her mouth. She stood. The hall is clear, a charred red arm shot down from above the doorway. It grabbed her throat. And yanked her out. Her scream cut off. Something wet hit the floor outside. Then she stepped back into view. Her arms were gone. Blood poured from her shoulders as she staggered forward, eyes wide with confusion, like her brain hadn't caught up yet. Behind her, something ducked through the doorway. It looked like someone had tried to build a bear out of burned meat and broken bones and then changed their mind halfway through. It slammed into her. They crashed through the window together. The sound she made when it finished with her outside. I don't think sound is supposed to bend like that. We didn't move. None of us. We just stared at the shattered window waiting for it to come back. It didn't. Eventually distant gunfire echoed from somewhere off campus. That's what finally snapped me out of it. I stood. Walked to the door. Looked into the hall. Bodies everywhere. Blood sprayed across lockers. A dent in the metal shaped like a human head. Police found us minutes later and escorted us out. They said it was an escaped zoo animal. That's what the news said too. A bear. But I saw its face. Bears don't have hands like that. And there just happens to be a military research facility 2 miles from our school. We never talked about it again. Not officially. But every single person in that classroom knows, they lied. I knew something was wrong before the lockdown even started. Teachers were acting strange all day. Not nervous. Not distracted. Wrong. One forgot how to spell a word she'd written 1,000 times. Another stared at a student for so long he had to ask if he was okay. One walked the aisle so slowly it looked like he was learning how to use his legs. And they smelled like perfume sprayed over rot. Then the lockdown alarm sounded. Our teacher smiled. "That's what scared me. Half of you stay," she said. "Half come with me." That isn't how lockdown works. But most students obeyed anyway. I followed her into the hallway. I was 3 people behind her when I saw it. A drop of blood slid out from under her sleeve and crawled down her arm. My chest tightened. She opened the gym doors and ushered us inside. Pitch dark. Someone turned on a phone flashlight. And the light revealed them. Teachers. Standing silently in lines. Waiting. Then they rushed us. Knives. Cleavers. Metal hitting bone. Screams cut short. I stumbled backward against the wall. Hands grabbed my shoulders. I elbowed behind me. Our teacher staggered back, nose broken, eyes empty. I shoved her. Her arm tore off in my hand. She didn't react. She just stared at me. I ran. I ran until I reached my friend's classroom. Inside, students hid quietly. Their teacher had stepped out. I told them the truth. No one believed me. So I left with just my friend. The exits were chained shut from outside. Every one. We reached the faculty hall. Orange light flickered under the lounge door. Inside, the vice principal floated midair. A wooden spike through his chest. Symbols burned across the floor. Glowing. Pulsing. Alive. Behind us, footsteps. Teachers. Dozens. Coming down the hall holding blades. I grabbed a chair, shoved the floating body out of the glowing circle. It dropped. The light died. The symbols vanished. Behind me, every teacher collapsed at once. Dead. They'd been dead all day. The police arrived minutes later. They said it was mass hysteria. Stress. Delusion. But I saw that circle. And I know one thing for certain. Something was using them. History class always sounded the same. Same tone of voice. Same rhythm of lecture. Same slow march of words moving from the teacher's mouth to the whiteboard to our notebooks and nowhere else. If you closed your eyes, you could almost predict the pauses. The inhale before a new paragraph. The faint click of the marker cap. The dry glide of paper as someone turned a page too loudly in a room that had learned to be quiet. That day felt no different. I had one earbud in. Not both. Just one. The volume low enough that I could still hear the teacher if she said my name. The music wasn't there to block anything out. It was there to smooth the edges of the room. To fill the empty spaces between sounds so silence never fully formed. Because silence, real silence, is rare in schools. There's always something humming. Lights. Air vents. Chairs shifting. Fabric brushing desks. Even breathing creates a kind of background texture. Absolute quiet almost never happens unless something interrupts the pattern. That interruption came from the ceiling speaker. A click. Static. Then the announcement. Lockdown. Locks. Lights. Out of sight. Routine words. Practiced words. Words everyone had heard enough times that they no longer carried urgency. Around the room, chairs slid back in near unison. Students stood. Not rushed. Not startled. Just compliant. The way people move when they've rehearsed something often enough that their bodies perform it automatically. But this time, they all stood at the same time. Not roughly together. Not loosely coordinated. Exactly together. Every chair stopped moving at the same instant. Every body reached full height at the same instant. Every face turned forward at the same instant. Perfect synchronization. It wasn't dramatic. That's what made it wrong. It was too precise. I pulled my earbud out. No one spoke. No one shifted. They just stood there, facing forward, eyes open, arms hanging naturally at their sides like they'd been paused mid-motion. If someone had walked in at that moment, they might have thought the class was waiting for instructions. But no one was giving any. My song ended. For half a second, there was silence. And inside that silence, I heard it. A sound so low it didn't feel like something entering my ears. It felt like something forming inside my head. A slow rhythmic pattern. Soft. Repeating. Almost like breathing heard through a wall. Not loud enough to identify. Just present enough to be noticed. My vision blurred. Not dark. Not dizzy. Just, delayed. Like the world had slipped slightly out of sync with itself. The edges of objects softened. Thoughts slowed, stretching out as if they had to travel farther than usual before reaching completion. Then the next song began. The effect vanished instantly. The room snapped back into focus. My heartbeat surged like I'd just been startled awake. I didn't understand what had happened, but my body reacted before my mind did. I opened my music settings and turned on crossfade so there would be no gap between tracks. No silence. Not even a fraction of a second. Behind me, something made a wet sound. Not loud. Just close. I turned. A girl stood inches from the student beside her. Her mouth was pressed against his neck. For a second my brain refused to interpret what I was seeing. The image didn't match any known category. It looked staged. Rehearsed. Artificial. Like a scene from a play where actors freeze mid-action. Then she bit down. He didn't react. Didn't flinch. Didn't shout. He simply stepped forward when she released him and turned toward the next person in line the same way she had turned toward him. His posture stayed relaxed. His expression stayed neutral. His movements were calm. Methodical. And then he leaned in. Around the room, others were doing the same. No screaming. No running. Just quiet chewing. The sound spread slowly at first, then everywhere at once, soft, damp, repetitive. The kind of sound you might not notice in isolation but couldn't ignore once you recognized it. My chest tightened. I backed toward the door. No one looked at me. They were too busy continuing whatever process had started the moment the silence appeared. I stepped into the hallway. The first thing I saw was a coach. He turned his head toward me with slow mechanical precision. His eyes tracked me, not with curiosity, not with anger, with focus. He stepped forward. His jaw opened slightly, as if preparing for something he had already decided to do. I didn't wait. I drove my forehead into his face and ran. Every classroom I passed showed the same scene. Students standing close together. Heads bent toward shoulders. Mouths moving. No shouting. No chaos. Just coordinated, quiet consumption. Doors open. Lights on. Silence everywhere except for that soft, repetitive sound. My music kept playing. Track blending into track. Sound layered over sound. No gaps. I reached the administrative office and pushed inside. The room was empty. On the desk sat the PA microphone. Taped to its transmit button was a small handheld recorder. It was playing. I could tell from the movement of the tape reels and the faint vibration against the plastic casing. Whatever it was broadcasting, it was being fed directly into the school's speaker system. I grabbed it and pulled. The tape tore free. Instantly. The building exploded into noise. Screams. Real screams. Dozens of them. From every direction. Shocked, horrified, disoriented voices all crying out at once. Footsteps. Shouts. Furniture scraping. The sudden chaos of hundreds of people realizing what they were doing at the same time. I stood there holding the recorder while the sound crashed around me like a wave. Something had stopped. Whatever had been guiding them. Whatever had been moving them. It was gone. Emergency services arrived minutes later. I told them everyone needed medical attention. Not a few people. Not several. All of them. Later, after statements were taken and questions asked and explanations suggested, I sat alone and pressed play on the recorder. I listened carefully. There was nothing. No whisper. No tone. No hidden frequency. Just silence. I listened again. Still nothing. But I know what I heard between my songs. I know what happened in that half second when the world went quiet. And since that day, I have never allowed silence near me again. I sleep with music. I shower with music. I walk with music. Because silence isn't empty. Sometimes. Something is waiting inside it.